All right, guys, we're back with another collaboration. Harrison Graham of Chicago Bears Now. That is Trace Moustakas, a.k.a. Moose from Falcons Today. Ian Cunningham to Atlanta. So we're going to do some trade combos, maybe a little Tyson Bagent to the Falcons. We'll have to wait and see. But Moose, how about a little sub battle? Which fan base is going to step up to the plate and win this competition on this video?
Well, believe it or not, even though we don't have nearly as many subs over there on Bears Now, I know Falcons faithful have got my back covered. If they want the very latest surrounding Dirty Birds coverage, you got to hit that subscribe button. Help us beat Bears Now on this dual cam episode by Chat Sports.
Come on, Bears fans. We're going to lose the Falcons today. Not going to happen. Let's get into the video. All right, let's talk a little trades here, as obviously Ian Cunningham, Ryan Poles' right-hand man, joins Matt Ryan Poles' former teammate, in Atlanta. And Moose, I know you've talked about this on Falcons Today. I actually hit it on Bears Now a few weeks back, but with all the chatter at the Combine that the Bears are getting some trade calls on Tyson Bagent, I do wonder / think that Atlanta could be one of the teams that could be making that call. So why don't we just discuss the possibility of this potentially coming to fruition, especially given the uncertainty around Michael Penix Jr.?
Yeah, first things first, though. Thanks for having me on the show. Bears fans, what's up? It's good to see you. Falcons fans, welcome into the show. To get to your first point there, I think the biggest reason that any of these trade talks would happen between the Falcons right now and the Bears is simply because of the question mark surrounding Michael Penix Jr. There have been multiple reports that have come out from not only Falcons media members, but NFL insiders as well that have claimed this new regime in Atlanta, headlined by Matt Ryan as the president of football operations and now new general manager Ian Cunningham, they're not sold on Michael Penix Jr. They're not attaching themselves, not hitching that wagon to him. They're very lukewarm on the possibility of him being the franchise guy, mainly because of his inability to play under center. Now, Falcons fans have gone back and forth with me about saying, well, there's no evidence to support that he can't go under center, just that he didn't go under center. And at that point, I'm looking at it like it's kind of potato at that point. We know that when Kirk Cousins came in last year down the stretch after the ACL injury, that he was under center far more, around 20% of the time, to Michael Penix less than 1%. So it feels a lot of gimmicky things, a lot of shotgun, and honestly just kind of a big question mark on his ability to play under center and progress to that next level as an NFL quarterback.
Well, and look, I know Zach Robinson was a polarizing figure, to put it nicely, yeah, among Falcons fans, but he comes from that McVay tree, which is a lot of under center play action, and they ran a lot of pistol because the first year, I think it was due to Cousins, the Achilles, not being able to drive off that back foot. But then when they went to Penix, they kind of stuck with that. What did he do at Washington under Kalen DeBoer? A lot of shotgun, spreading it out, standing in the gun. So, yeah, to your point, Falcons fans can debate, can he get under center, can he not? I guess we'll find out if he ends up being their guy. But that's where you bring in outside options. Tyson Bagent. No one knows Tyson Bagent more than Ian Cunningham outside of the Bears, right? Ian Cunningham helped find Tyson Bagent as Ryan Poles' right-hand man when they found him as an undrafted free agent a few years ago. He won the backup job behind Justin Fields in 2023, which was a relative surprise. He beat out P.J. Walker, who they signed to be the backup, and Bagent was just better. And he got to play some that year, went 2-2 as a starter. Hasn't played much since. But in the last two preseasons, he's been excellent. And Ben Johnson, the Bears head coach this week, Moose, said that his preseason tape from the past 2 years tells me he's a top 32 quarterback. Now, is he gassing him up to increase his trade value? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's a coincidence that after Ben Johnson took the job and he got to see this guy up close through OTAs, through training camp, that they signed him to an extension. He likes him a lot. The Bears like him a lot. So if they're going to trade him, they're going to want a decent return, but they also they do believe he could be a starter in this league, but obviously the Bears have Caleb Williams. He took nice steps forward this year, so he's their guy. So if they do trade him, I think they would want to send him to a place where he'd have a chance to start, and maybe Atlanta's that spot for one of two reasons. One, maybe Atlanta doesn't believe in Michael Penix, or two, we don't know exactly when Penix is going to be fully healthy. He's not going to be available in the offseason program. So
Correct.
if they did trade for Bagent, he would have a head start on that situation in Stefanski's offense, so on and so forth. So I do think it's an interesting dynamic for Atlanta if they are to bring in an outside quarterback, and again, with the Cunningham connection to Tyson Bagent.
Well, so I'll piggyback off of that. Tommy Rees, the new Falcons offensive coordinator coming over from Cleveland, had said multiple times in his opening press conference that playing under center is so vital to the Kevin Stefanski offense, which is kind of a branching out of something that like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan would like to do. Different variations and different styles, a lot of wide zone schemes. They love to run the football, kind of like Ben Johnson does as well. That's their preference. And with Bijan, you're looking at the best running back in the league. So clearly, that's going to be kind of the focal point of the offense, with the passing game being more complementary. But the one area that I feel like Tyson Bagent offers just a little bit of extra secret sauce is his ability to go off platform. We know how good Tyson Bagent is under center in the play action game. You saw it a bunch during the preseason with Ben Johnson. And one thing that Michael Penix doesn't really do, I don't want to say that he can't do it, but prefers not to do it. He's almost like a statue in the pocket. He doesn't like to move a lot. And I've talked about pocket mobility as one of the areas that he needs to get way better in this offense, regardless of what offense he's running. And I'll challenge him on this as well. Penix is not good against pressure. Colin, we actually have a List 3 logo of some pressure that Michael Penix has faced during this last season. I mean, you could take a look at the advanced data, Harry. These are not good numbers. Completion percentage against pressure is 43%. Yards per attempt, 5.6. He took 13 sacks. He panics. In fact, some Falcons fans have called him Michael Penix Jr. when he's facing the blitz. Now, I think that's a bit harsh, and I still don't want this to be the we're dumping on Penix show, but the one area that I have been very, very objective with when it comes to Penix's game is when it's on time, when it's on target, he can make every single throw. He can have a lot more velocity than
Huge
a lot of
arm.
people believe.
Yep.
But they kind of took away the deep ball, and against the blitz, it really wasn't good. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL against the blitz.
Here's what it comes down to for me. Does Michael Penix fit what Kevin Stefanski wants to do? Historically, based on watching Stefanski's offenses over the year, I would say no. Now, can they adapt to this player? They certainly could. But to your point, this GM, Matt Ryan as well, and Kevin Stefanski, they're not tied to Michael Penix.
No.
They did not draft him. Doesn't mean they're not going to give him a chance to be their guy, but I don't think they're going to change everything they believe in philosophically, offensively, to try and make this work with Penix. I think Penix has to prove to them he can evolve as a player and fit into what they want to do. Now, obviously, if he's going to be their starter, are they going to add some things to make him comfortable in the offense? All good coaches do that,
Sure.
so they're going to need to do that. But Kevin Stefanski is not going to change everything he believes in offensive football to make this work for a quarterback coming off a third major knee injury dating back to college and to a guy he did not handpick personally. So
Well, to even add on to that really quickly, 5 season-ending injuries for Michael Penix in 8 years.
yeah, I mean,
It's crazy.
He has been just brutalized with injuries. And look, I think we leave it here, and we both cooked up some trades for Tyson Bagent, which we'll get to in a second. But the last thing I'll say to Falcons fans, if you do bring in Tyson Bagent, here's some things you can look for. Number one, I think he is a guy that, regardless of the system, he will pick it up fast. Like, I think he's proven that in Chicago. He's been under 3 different offensive coordinators: Luke Getsy, Shane Waldron, well, technically 4 because Thomas Brown for an interim period in Chicago, and then this year Ben Johnson. And he's been the backup in all those situations. What does that tell you? Different coaches, players. He's very well liked. He can pick up things quickly. And 2, he's not going to be a bad decision maker, right? Like, to me, he's like the ideal backup. The question is, can he be a starter? The Bears believe he can, just not in Chicago, because they think Caleb Williams could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'd like to see him get the opportunity. I think a Stefanski-style offense makes sense, and I think learning under Ben in this system, which is a very complex offense, getting under center, 7-step dropping out of the play action, taking shots downfield, I think growing up in that scheme over the last 12 months is only going to benefit him moving forward. So I don't know if the Bears will trade him. I do think they'll have a fairly high price to move him. We'll reveal trades that you and I have cooked up here in just a moment. But he's very well liked. He's well respected by coaches and fellow players. And at worst, you're getting a high-level backup for any team that brings him in.
And like you said, price is going to come down to and determine everything when it comes to getting Bagent. The question now becomes, do you want to give up a day 2 pick if you're the Atlanta Falcons? Because all reports indicate that's probably what the Bears are looking for, right? They don't want something like a 5th rounder. They view Tyson Bagent as a commodity, as a backup behind Caleb Williams. And now the Falcons are going to have to be tasked with going out there saying, we can view him as potential QB1 competition for Michael Penix Jr. as we head into the preseason. Install day is only about 2 months away. Not even.
Yeah, and again, he's just now starting a 2-year extension. His cap hit is $4.75 million each of the next 2 years for the Bears. They're not just going to give him away. They value him highly. I know that firsthand. I've been told that. So, and if you just listen to Ben and Ryan Poles talk about him, like they really value him. Like a 5th-round pick, I don't even think a 4th would get it done. Maybe a year from now it would, because 1 year left on the deal. But I think if they were going to move him this offseason, it would be day 2 compensation. So Moose and I both sent producer Cullen trade ideas without knowing what his is. He doesn't know what I cooked up. I cooked up 2 trades. He cooked up 1. So, Cullen, you could surprise us. Doesn't matter whose trade is first that you'll put up on screen.
Mine.
We'll go to Moose's first. So why don't you go through this trade idea here?
So, obviously, the Falcons only have 5 draft picks. So, I don't think this year in 2026. Cunningham has been very, very transparent with us from the moment he stepped foot inside the Falcons facility that he views draft picks like currency. So, looking at what we've currently got, I don't think we'd be willing to give up anything in this year's draft class. So that's why I decided to go out and make the hypothetical trade idea, knowing what the Bears would probably look for, a 2027 3rd-round pick with a condition that it could become a 2nd based off of playing time, snaps taken, and some different types of, incentives thrown into that contract with different wording. So I view just a straight up, you guys get a 2027 3rd, conditional 2nd, and the Falcons receive Tyson Bagent. What do you think about this?
Well, that's really interesting. That's actually one of the 2 trades I cooked up, and you can throw that one up there for me, Cullen, before I go to my other trade that I cooked. I put the specifics of the conditions in here. I think one of 2 things. If he starts 10 or more games in the regular season next year, so in 2026, it goes from a 3rd to a 2nd. Or if he starts a playoff game. So if Atlanta makes the playoffs and he's the starter for that game, goes from a 3rd to a 2nd. So again, guaranteed a 3rd-round pick, but if certain conditions are met, playing time, either 10 regular season starts or a playoff start, it turns into a 2nd-round pick. I think that's pretty fair based on what the Bears are asking for. I don't know if the Bears will get a day 2 pick offer, but if it's in next year's draft, like both these trade ideas are, maybe they could. I'll say this right now. I'd be shocked if they traded Bagent for a day 3 pick with 2 years left on the contract.
I would agree with you. And I think that's probably where the bidding started. I'm sure Cunningham, if he's making the calls, starts with a 5th, and then you kind of work your way from that point. But I'm on full board with you. I don't think the Bears will take anything less than a 4th. I think that's kind of like the lowest that they would go. And maybe that would even be a next year's trade, like you said.
Yeah, with 2 years left, I think if it was a 4th or later, they'd probably just keep them. The other trade I mentioned, and again, to your point, it doesn't sound like they want to give up draft picks this year, but was just their 3rd-round pick this year. 79 overall, straight up for Tyson Bagent. Bears get a top 80 pick. Falcons get 2 years of control of a cheap, affordable contract who, again, at worst, very good teammate, good backup, but potentially a starter. And with Atlanta having to move on from Kirk Cousins, with that money, their salary cap's not in a great spot. If they were to hit on Bagent, even as just a bridge guy, you got cheap QB play for 2 years. I mean, that's pretty valuable to have in today's NFL. It's like having a rookie quarterback, essentially.
I agree. And the only reason I would decline this trade is, like I said, Ian Cunningham came out and said only 5 picks, but he then alluded back to the 2022 draft when he started with Ryan Poles in Chicago and said we started with 5 in that draft, ended up with 10. So all signs indicate that he's looking to trade down in this draft and gather more picks. Now, obviously, only having a 2nd-round pick, you'd probably be looking at trading that one away and just getting more third-round picks. Yeah. Obviously, we got Xavier Watson last year's draft in the third round, one of the best value picks in the 2025 draft, looking like a Pro Bowl caliber safety. So I could see Ian Cunningham going a variety of routes here in the 26th draft. So I'm thinking that if Tyson Bagent does get moved to the Atlanta Falcons, it is only going to be in 2027's draft capital.
All right, we'll wrap it there for Tyson Bagent. We're still going to talk about a few other Bears players that have been linked to trade rumors, and maybe Atlanta would get in on the bidding there potentially as well. We want you guys to weigh in on the show, though. Should the Falcons trade for Tyson Bagent, type T for trade or P for pass? And from a Bears perspective, should they trade Bagent to Atlanta or somewhere else, T for trade or P for pass?
Falcons fans, we'll be right back with our collab with Bears Now host Harrison Graham. But first, got to tell you about our sponsor of today's video, and that is Harry's. If your old razor dulled way too quickly, if it irritated your neck, let's be honest, $30 for refills, total scam. You can get all of this for a fraction of the cost with Harry's. Harry's Plus is Harry's heaviest razor handle ever, made from metal, never plastic, designed to fit comfortably in your hand. Heavier handle means more control and a luxe feel. But they don't just make razors. They've got a full line of grooming essentials, from shave gel to deodorant to body wash, all thoughtfully made and priced up to stock. All of Harry's blades, by the way, and grooming products can be delivered right to your door, so set your preferred schedule and never run out of blades again. So take it from the hairiest guy you know. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/chat. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. That's harrys.com/chat to claim this offer, and after you purchase there, you can say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Please support our show and let them know that Moose from Falcons Today sent you.
All right, it's been a busy week for Chicago at the NFL Combine. By the way, I actually want to hit, before we get to Tremaine Edmunds, DJ Moore, and Gervon Dexter, I know you were interested in a couple of those players. Just real quick, I want to hit on this Cunningham draft compensation thing. I had to do it because Ian Cunningham himself was asked about this at the Combine. We probably should have played the clip because we have it, but we'll just kind of paraphrase it here. He was like, yeah, based on my understanding of the rule, they should get the picks, but I don't really know what's going on. Ryan Poles is like, yeah, we appealed to the league, and we've talked to the right channel. So the Falcons think the Bears should get the picks. The Bears think the Bears should get the picks. Matt Ryan at the Super Bowl is like, yeah, I've never even been in a draft meeting before, so this is Ian's show. It's like, what are we missing here? Like, this is a technicality from the language of the rule from the league. I think a pretty easy fix here, Moose, and it really doesn't impact Atlanta because they're not losing picks. It's comp picks from the league. Don't you just award the Bears the picks and then you change the verbiage of the rule? I mean, I think that's an easy fix for everyone involved. We actually do. Shout out producer Colin. He actually pulled up the clip here. Let's hear from Ian Cunningham real quick.
Yeah, I haven't had much time to really dive into like the wording of it. It was always my interpretation that if a general manager gets hired, that team would receive 2 third-round picks. I'm a general manager. I was hired. I would think that they would get 2 third-round picks. I don't know the wording of it. That's just my perspective. Again, I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for them giving me that job and helping me grow to get this job right now.
God, he just sounds like the Falcons GM, doesn't he? But so based off of my understanding of what is all going on, I think the most culpable, sort of headline here is what is going on with these kind of made-up titles. Now, I know president of football isn't necessarily a made-up title, but we kind of see this as being more frequent. Like, Arthur Blank goes out and creates, it's not the president of football operations, it's the president of football. Well, how does that differ from president of football operations? So in that aspect, it kind of is made up. But I look at this as kind of like Rodgers got to do his job of whoever is running the show when it comes to the NFL draft, whoever is making the decisions about the contracts and the overall health of the football team, that needs to be the baseline of it, right? Whether that is the GM or the president, you've got to pick one title in that gigantic operation and say, if this is who's running the show, this is where the rules kind of fall under. And it's just this loophole that ends up being a thing, and Goodell has to make a decision. I think the Bears deserve the comp.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple here. It's not the title, it's the job responsibility.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan is there to kind of just oversee and to be a helping hand, because Arthur Blank, and correct me if I'm wrong, they basically brought in a third party at the end of the season to review the whole operation, and they found, they found holes, cracks in the walls and whatnot, and maybe leadership across the board wasn't great. So they created this position like, hey, let's bring a guy who knows this building better than anyone, who wants to get involved in an organization. Matt Ryan, he's passionate about this team, to be an extra resource, to be a guy, there's some debate going on here. Maybe he's a tiebreaker in certain decisions, those type of things. But when he himself is like, yeah, Ian's in charge of the roster, I've never even been in a draft meeting before, I think this is like one of those common sense needs to apply here. So we'll see what happens. We don't need to spend all day on it. But
without a doubt.
I did just want to touch on that since this is a Bears-Falcons collab here. Okay, where do you want to go next, Moose? So Gervon Dexter, Tremaine Edmunds, and DJ Moore are all players that have been mentioned that the Bears have gotten trade calls on. I know you've had some thoughts on some of those players in terms of if Atlanta would be interested, again, with Ian Cunningham's connection to all those players.
So I'm going to start with Gervon Dexter only because the Atlanta Falcons need a certifiable run stopper on that defensive line. Dealt with a lot of injuries. Last year, Zach Harrison goes down. He was one of their better pass rushers. You're losing guys like David Onyemata to free agency, Arnold Ebiketie as well. So we need a little bit more plug-and-play action on that defensive line. Notably, the Falcons last year, their biggest hole on defense was their ability to stop the run. Had a franchise record broken in sacks under Jeff Ulbrich. Shout out to my man Brick, kind of turning the kind of scope and landscape of the entire Falcons organization around, especially when it comes to defense. And the secondary continues to get better, implementing Billy Bowman into the nickel. You've got the two best safety duos in the entire league in Jesse Bates and Xavier Watts. Now it's just about adding that one space eater on the defensive line, and I think Gervon Dexter could be that player, somebody that can just kind of anchor the defensive line. Notably, defensive tackle would go even better, an interior pressure player to go alongside Brandon Dorlus.
Yeah, I'll say this from Gervon Dexter's standpoint. He's better as a pass rusher than a run defender.
Sure.
In 2024, he was decent against the run, but last year in Dennis Allen's scheme, he wasn't great. Now, I do think Ulbrich's scheme would fit Dexter better in terms of him being a better run defender, but his strength is as a pass rusher. So I do want Falcons fans to be aware of that. That being said, this is a guy who's 6'6", 315, twitchy athlete. He just hasn't quite ever put it all together. It's like you see the flashes, but you're always left wanting a little bit more. But I also have not liked the scheme fits for him in Chicago. I didn't think he was a fit in Eberflus's 4-3 scheme. I didn't think he was a great fit in Dennis Allen's 4-3 scheme. That being said, 11 sacks over the past 2 years for an interior defensive lineman, like 5-6 sack guys on the interior, they don't grow on trees. That's what everybody is looking for in today's NFL. So I think the Bears are caught in a tough spot where it's like, okay, we like the player. We don't think he's a great fit, but he's only 24, and if we trade him, we're kind of thin at defensive tackle. So I think the Bears are like, okay, if we get a good enough offer, kind of like the Bagent thing, but for different reasons, we would consider it. Otherwise, they could just play out the final year of his rookie deal. I do wonder, what his market would be. I know, again, Atlanta doesn't want to trade picks this year, but is it a third-round pick next year or something like that? How does Ulbrich view him as a scheme fit? So he's only 24. I mean, that's the intriguing part here. Like, if you get him in a scheme that fits his skill set better, could he still take off? I don't know that personally, but I do think the one thing with Dexter is his floor is relatively high. He's definitely not a bad player. I just don't know if he ever reaches that potential all-pro ceiling, which I think from an athletic trait standpoint, people thought that could be the case, and that has not happened through 3 seasons.
Yeah, and Jeff Ulbrich is an exotic blitzer, and he's really relentlessly aggressive when it comes to his idea of attacking the quarterback in the pass rush. blitzed the fourth most out of any defensive coordinator last year, headlined by Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., who might not even play next year. So that's even more of a reason to want to explore another pass rushers, because you'd be losing your leader that you had last year in sacks, 10.5 sacks. And, we're not going to comment on an ongoing legal matter here, but I think the point remains that, there's a big question mark about, is he ever going to play football again, not just for the Falcons?
Well, you got to, if you're Atlanta, you got to operate as if you're not going to have him at least at minimum to start next year, if not the entire season. And potentially he's played his last snap there. We'll see how that plays out. Okay, let's go Tremaine Edmunds next, and then we'll finish with DJ Moore. Bears are letting Edmunds seek a trade. From Chicago's standpoint, it's pretty simple. We've talked about this a ton on Bears now. He's still a good player. It's kind of crazy, Moose. He's entering his 9th season, and he turns 28 in 2 months. He was
crazy.
20 as a rookie. He's still solid, but his cap hit of $17.4 million, where the Bears can save 15 by cutting or trading him, it's just they have bigger needs on the roster. I do wonder if a team would trade low on him, 6th, 7th round pick, and extend him to lower his cap hit for 2026. You give him a 2-year extension, Moose. He's still only 30 by the end of that contract. What's Atlanta's situation with off-ball linebackers? Do you think they would be interested in buying low on a guy like Tremaine Edmunds?
Interestingly enough, if you would have asked me about a month ago, I would have told you we were good, because you brought in Divine Diablo last year, and he was unbelievable for the Falcons as the Mike linebacker. And then he got hurt, and it was anchored more by Caden Ellis. And Ellis is kind of the question mark here, because everybody in Atlanta loves Caden Ellis, myself included. He's kind of a hybrid off-ball backer. He can blitz when he's called upon. He can drop back in coverage when he's called upon. He's kind of like the anchor of that defense, which I really, really love. But now it feels like Cunningham doesn't have that emotional tie again to that contract, and they have an idea of what they want to pay him, and it doesn't sound like that they're on the same page. Otherwise, it would have happened already, knowing how much he means to the defense. And Jeff Ulbrich came out and said replacing Caden Ellis takes more than one player. So Tremaine Edmunds would be a very, very good, immediate, quick fix to the Caden Ellis problem. The question is, like you said, what does the extension look like? I don't think the Falcons, if they're not going to pay Caden Ellis, they definitely don't want to pay a guy like Tremaine Edmunds. So I think that because Ellis has got a little bit more versatility than a guy like Tremaine Edmunds does. So I look at this as kind of like only if it makes sense from the financial perspective. Otherwise, look somewhere else and maybe draft a linebacker, because the linebacker class this year is so deep.
In other words, if the Bears cut Edmunds, maybe they'd be interested.
Correct.
Because obviously
they're not trading.
Cunningham knows him, but trading a draft pick probably doesn't make sense with lacking draft capital. Okay, lastly, DJ Moore. Obviously, the Falcons have good weapons. They could cut former Bear Darnell Mooney, who I actually wouldn't mind signing if the Bears moved on from DJ to like a cheapish 1-year deal. I think he'd fit well in a Ben Johnson system. We'll kind of leave that there. But DJ Moore, it's a complicated thing for Bears fans, because obviously he delivered these awesome moments this year, right? The walk-off against Green Bay in the regular season, the game winner against Green Bay in the playoffs. But the week-to-week, drive-to-drive consistency, his volume of productivity has just dipped, and the Bears have Burden now. They've got Roma Dunze, Colson Loveland. It's just his contract doesn't really match the production at this point, and so the Bears wouldn't move him, I think, for the right price. Again, I don't think Atlanta wants to, just burn draft picks here, but if they did dump Darnell Mooney, I do think DJ just – as a fit, as a number 2 next to Drake London, is actually a really good fit, because London's that big physical receiver, mostly going to play on the outside. DJ can do a little bit of everything, gadget stuff, screens, over the middle, vertical as well. Again, you would know better than me. I don't know if Atlanta would have any interest at all, but I do think stylistically as a number 2 receiver, along with Drake London, I do think that fits pretty interesting.
Yeah, so sidebar really quick. I almost added Darnell Mooney into my trade package for Tyson Bagent with you, just a sidebar. But I
don't think the Bears would take on his current contract. Kind of like Edmunds with the Falcons.
Yes.
If he gets cut, I'm interested, but I don't think a trade.
Well, so Darnell Mooney does look like he's going to get cut. Last year was really tough for him. He spent almost the entire year with injuries. There was some very cloudy messaging from former Falcons head coach Raheem Morris about his availability at the beginning of the season because we kept being told that Darnell was going to be good to go, and then he just wasn't. But that's besides the point.
Him and Penix haven't seemed to gel either for whatever reason. Because with Cousins 2 years ago, he was awesome. He had almost 1,000 yards.
Excellent. So Darnell is kind of the one here that, kind of loses out on everything. But back to your point about DJ Moore, I think it's a perfect fit. You mentioned the Falcons having good weapons. I'm going to tell you this right now. After watching last year play out, it is Michael Penix Jr., Drake London, and Bijan Robinson, and then there's everybody else. And that includes Kyle Pitts, who really came on strong only when Kirk Cousins came into the game. They have struggled with their relationship as well. Atlanta Falcons fans and the Falcons themselves are starving for a number 2 wide receiver. They need someone who notably can play out of the slot, can be great in yak, and it's kind of that chess piece that you can move around. This would be the perfect fit. So believe it or not, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I would almost rather the Falcons trade for DJ Moore than even a Tyson Bagent.
Oh, wow.
Only because if you are going to roll with Penix, and there's a lot of people that believe that could still be the case, I think you have to surround him with somebody outside of Drake London. And that's just the point right there is DJ Moore still has some really good football in him. There's still some juice left in the tank. He'd fit the scheme that Kevin Stefanski wants to run, and he would be the number 2 certifiable option.
The nice thing about DJ, too, is you can just manufacture touches.
Yes.
So, like, early in a game to get Penix into some rhythm, throw him a couple screens, get him on a jet sweep, just these little crossers. Like, he's not going to run the full route tree, but to your point, get him out in space. Yards after the catch. He's tough. He played through a lot of stuff last year, which I think motivated his teammates in Chicago. So, yeah, I think with Atlanta this offseason, Moose, they have to decide, like, okay, is 2026 a big year for us or not? Yeah. Clearly in Chicago, it is because they're in this win-now mode with Caleb on his rookie deal. Penix is on his rookie deal, but do they believe in him long-term? Or is it kind of like, let's just play this year out, see what happens. If he takes a huge step forward, great. If not, okay, we're not over-investing in 2026. We're thinking 2027 and beyond. So I think that's what Atlanta internally has to decide. And with Cunningham as the GM, Moose, he saw how they did it in Chicago, kind of tearing it down and building it back up. That'll be interesting to see what their approach is in Atlanta.
Well, and finally, just one more point to add on to that. The looming question right now is, how winnable is this division in the NFC South?
Should be very winnable. Yeah.
And that's why, in my opinion, you went out and made a decision to go out and hire Kevin Stefanski instead of a brand new first-time coordinator where you give him a little bit more time to breathe. You brought in Kevin Stefanski because you believe you can win this division now with the roster that you currently have. Needs a little bit of polishing, right? It's not a finished product, but went 1-5 in one-score games last year. They are in a lot of these football games, and had it not been for a terrible loss to the New York Jets in week 13 or whatever it was, Falcons win the division. So it is as simple as one game sometimes. I think the question, like you said, is Penix the guy? That's one question, but there's not a lot of give and take here. It's win, and you've got to win immediately.
The big difference, too, just to compare when Poles took over Chicago, is Atlanta has real young talent.
Yes.
The Bears, when Poles took over, had bad Ryan Pace contracts. Shout out Ryan Pace. The Bears-Falcons overlap the last few years has actually been pretty funny. So, it's going to be exciting to follow. I do think the Bagent thing is interesting. Cunningham knows him very well. So, we'll see if him and his old pal Ryan Poles have any discussions this week. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, if you're watching on Falcons Today, go support Moose. He's doing a hell of a job over there. We're popping up daily videos on Bears now as well, of course. And hey, chirp each other in the comments. These videos are going on both channels. So if you're a Bears fan and want to go chirp Moose and Falcons fans on his channel, go on over there, and vice versa here on Bears Now. Make it a competition in terms of subscribing to the channel. Maybe it's your first time. We do shows like this all the time. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We will see you guys soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.